Hello, hi-fi people. Kelvin from London here. Stereo Review X is my channel. I review vintage stereo equipment and occasionally some new equipment. Today I've got this absolute golden oldie, an old amp. Yeah, this is an old amp. Leek Stereo 70. I can't quite get the date, but I'm thinking 1969. Yeah, so you know, definitely late 60s it was available, probably available very early 71 maybe as well, but a really old amp, and it's got a really different sound, and I'll go into that in a second. And I'm just going to do also a little bit of contrast and compare with this Cyrus 2 amp from 1984. Yeah, so, and there's, like, you know, a huge difference in the sound orientation, let's say, between these two. They sort of exemplify what's gone on, sort of, roughly speaking. Okay, let me do this for you in let me go through some of the specifications. Okay, Leek Stereo 70, Harold Leek, that's the man, yeah, Harold Leek, he designed it. It is, like Stereo 70 says, 30 watts a channel. Yeah, feature wise, it's got, well, it hasn't got anything too remarkable. Well, the remarkable thing, it has a mono switch for each channel, so a left mono and a right mono, so you have to put them both in if you want mono, but I always like having a mono button to sort of test my separation and stuff. But you get two here, two tuners, two pickups. I mean, you can put your CD player, whatever, into tuner, yeah, and there are two of those, so that's okay. The 35 watts, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, the other thing is, let me say, I've had, this is not mine, it's my friend's amp that I just got. I've had at least two other Leeks of very similar vintage to this, which was the Delta 30, and I think the Delta, like a similar aged receiver, which had a blue tuner section to it. But they're very similar in age, slightly younger, those other ones, but they sound pretty damn the same. Yeah, so don't get that confused with later Leeks where they had the long silver panel. I think this is a different kind of design, but the Delta and this, the Stereo 70 and the Stereo 30, they sound pretty damn the same. Okay, and it sounds pretty unusual sound, this is really. So I'll do the sound for you in general, and then I'll go through some songs and do the sound in detail. And you know, you should know what this amp sounds like at the end of that. Now, I should say this is a really old amplifier, okay? It's a really old amplifier. Things have got better in the technical manufacture of amplifiers since this day. Not necessarily talking about sound, yeah? Anyway, point is, I turned this amp on. It didn't want to work properly for 10 minutes, yeah? You know, one channel wasn't there, or I wasn't sure what was going on, to be honest with you, and I was pressing buttons and messing around. And I've found that with, particularly actually with these old Leeks and some very old amplifiers, if they haven't been turned on, you literally turn them on and then, like, you know, give them half an hour, right? Give them a good bit of time, give it a few hours if you have to. But if you turn it on, you go, oh, this channel's not there, and if it hasn't been turned on for a long time, something this old, you literally have to wait for it to sort of, I don't know, balance itself out, or get in the groove, you know. But I mean, I've experienced that multiple times with really old amps like that. So if you turn it on and it's not working dead right, give it some time, you know, it should get better. But these are really old amps, and I'll talk about the sort of reliability of those at the end. Okay, let's do the sound in general, which is a pretty damn remarkable sound this thing has, and it's really enjoyable. I really enjoyed listening to this amp. It's got incredible grip in the bass. Yeah, it's not like it's really almost like the opposite of a sort of 90s amplifier, which is dry and tame and restrained. This is absolutely kick-ass thing. Grip. The bass is powerful, detailed, probably a bit distorted, probably a bit over big. You know, this amp is probably, you know, it's not a super refined thing. Yeah, I don't want to mislead you. I see this amp and some other amps of that time as, you know, they haven't quite got on top of all the problems with building amplifiers, right? But do the right things at the right volume, this can sound great. But you know, it's not. If you have big and super articulate, modern, you know, speakers that are fussy with their source, you know, that are not forgiving, you know, you won't get any. That would not work out well with this. But with a pair of lots of other speakers and vintage speakers, it's going to be quite an interesting thing. So I'll carry on with the sound. Okay, it's got grip, big mid-range, it's very acoustic. It's got a really low, a massive load of space in the mid-range, massive. If you look inside of this, I put some deoxit in this, by the way, if you know what that is, on all the switches. Now, if you look inside this, the bass, the treble, the balance, the volume, they've got a pot each, yeah? One pot each. Now, I don't know tons about amplifier design, but it also has one transformer, I should say. But when you listen to this, it has a very unique sound, and you get an awful lot of left-right definition, a real lot. You sort of, the middle is a little bit missing, not missing, but it's not kind of got the same, I don't know, it's like it was slightly neglected in the middle. I mean, things are in the middle, which should be, like the snare drums and the voices, but things that are particularly left and right are really left and right and really obvious. That's why I'm talking about the pots being two pots. It's like it's like a dual power. It has that. That's, you know, that's makes me think of that. You know, because some of the left and right stuff is really well defined. You know. What else has got? Big mid range. It gives you something. This amp gives you something really like, you know, other amps won't give you. Yeah. But then, you know, what you can't do with this, what this amp won't like, is going loud. It just won't like it, you know. It will start to crack up a little bit, you know. So, but at normal volumes, it's just great. It's just great. If you turn this treble up high, it will sound pretty rubbish. You keep the treble and the bass flat, fine, really fine. I always have the volume and tone control on flat myself, but what would I say, it's really lively sounding, and it's really in the room, right? If you know what I mean by that, you know, you literally feel like that bass guitar and bass drums, everything, it's literally in the room. And if you were to turn this up loud, you would actually be saying, you know, be too in the room, yeah? You'd be saying, can you back off, please? You know, it's got that much sort of life. It's big and ballsy. Really, that's probably the best way I could describe this sound. It's really kicking, really, you know. And here I'll give you a bit of a contrast with this, which is no bad amp at all. You know, this is 50 watts, by the way. This is 30 watts, 35, stereo 70, 35, 35. You know, comparing these two, this has just got a ton more mid-range and a better, much more grippy bass. It's a little bit ragged. I suppose you'd say it's a little bit valvey sound in a way in the mid-range. It's, you know, if you turn it up, it'll start kind of really breaking up. Where if you turn this up, actually this amp is good as you turn it up, yeah. But this will give you a real load of pokey bass and a big mid-range, maybe not so much great top end, and this is definitely a more refined thing, you know. And maybe if you are really listening for long periods of time, you might like this. But this gives you certain things in abundance that you really don't get. You just don't get it anywhere else. So okay, I'm going to go through some songs in detail, and by the end of that you should really know what this amp sounds like and what its pitfalls are as well. Okay, listen to the song Too High, Stevie Wonder. This is a great song for testing out your hi-fi. It's got this harmonica battle in it. Come out fantastic on this. Okay, Too High. The bass is tight. The harmonical battle was great. The left and right is great. The centre is a bit missing. The drums are great. There's a funny sort of tom-tom thing goes off near the end. Came out really clear and nice on that amp. Sometimes I don't even notice that on some amps. But you know, if you go loud, it'll get a bit ragged. And it's very acoustic sounding. Yeah, it just gives you, it's got this very big space in the mid. And in the room. Really, really in the room, you know, more than this one, more than probably anything. More than any amp I could probably think of. This, if you played this fairly loud, someone might think there was a band in here, you know, it's like that. Now, here's where it gets not so good. The Eagles, Take It Easy, yeah? A lot of harmonies in there, a lot of vocals. The bass is nice, the drum's nice, yeah, the guitars are nice. The singer is okay. When you get all those like there's a big bunch of singing, Take It Easy, yeah, the chorus, it sounds a bit shrill. It sounds a little bit shrill, yeah, and that's where you start thinking, oh yeah, this is an old amp, it can't do everything. But like say on Too High, it sounded fantastic, just sounded fantastic. You know, it didn't expose any of its problems on Too High, and on Too High, it revealed all of its positive aspects. But then you get into the Eagles and you know, you're revealing the downsides. I did Alison Krauss, Now That I Found You. Very acoustic sounding, yeah, really acoustic, and made, you know, just feel like you're in the room with the guitars. The vocals not super refined. The bass notes are great. I can really hear the strings, you know. I mean, if you were to say compare this to a great amp, you know, like a £3,000 amp or something like that, you know, this would not compare, you know. But at this price range, and the price here is about £80, £100, $125, something like that. You know, that's we have to bear in mind what it is. But you know, when I say it's great, I mean it's great for the money, you know, and compared to other things that you can buy for that money, it does something really unusual. And you know, as a hi-fi person, I absolutely love listening to this amp, you know. Okay, next song I did, Black Man, Stevie Wonder. Great song, again, a great song to test your hi-fi. Great grip in the lower bass, great funky bass, yeah, it did the low bass just great, and thoroughly enjoyable, powerful, pokey, dynamic, detailed. Ultimately everything's a little bit, you know, tiny bit not perfect, but it's kind of all there, yeah, it's not there. Some amps, it's like they leave you sort of wanting, you know, I didn't really get into it, I didn't really, am I hearing the bass good? You will not have that experience with this amp, right? Oh, the other way, this amp has no loudness control, yeah, it doesn't have a loudness button. I think that is also because of the age, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if they'd sort of started using the loudness buttons then, but you know, it doesn't need one. It'd be ridiculous, actually. That might help you understand this amp, that it absolutely does not need a loudness button. everything is kicking out, everything is ballsy, loud, big. Okay, let me try and sum this up, and I will tell you some of the sort of, you know, the other reliability things with this amp, yeah? So, I couldn't say to you, go and buy one of these amps, they're great, because they're very old, and a lot of them are not working properly, you know. I mean, if you're someone that can fix amps, then, you know, go ahead. But if you're someone that wants to be able to buy something with a fair degree of certainty that's going to work, if someone says it's going to work, if you look on eBay, look at these amps that have been sold, you'll see about 60-70% of them are parts only, yeah, because they're not all, I don't mean they're dead, but, you know, they'll have some of these funny issues, or, you know, you'll get the balance won't, one channel be a bit loud, or they just feel like they're temperamental and old, you know. What else? It's not good for going really loud. It's gonna hurt you if you go really loud. It's just you're gonna go, ow. But in the right volume level, that doesn't happen. It's lovely at sort of a volume level where I could talk to someone sitting next to me. It's fine. It's only when you go loud, you know. So, and as I say, this amp, it's not the pinnacle of amp design. That hadn't really arrived, hardly, you know, in 1969. Don't put it with analytical speakers. If you put this with a nice pair of vintage speakers like my the MA4s, if you know those, Monitor Audio, big two-way vintage speakers, silk dome tweeter. You put this with those Monitor Audios, you would get a big, dynamic, punchy, exciting sound, you know, a real vintage sound. But as I say, you know, let's say what, you know, if you're gonna buy one, just you've got to make sure it's working, and be aware we're in the world of old and temperamental here, and you know, they're not expensive, and they're probably, you know, in 5 years time, even though this is now working okay, it's got a little hum on it too, yeah, which I cannot, once I start playing, I can't hear it at all, but it's the kind of thing that happens with these, yeah. So what I'm saying is, you know, it's for people that want to hear the sound, or if you get it cheap and it's working, fine, but don't expect to have it in 20 years time. That's what I would say. But it's an incredible thing, you know, and they don't make this kind of sounding amp anymore, you know. It's sort of the precursor almost to the vintage sound. Maybe it's got more of the vintage qualities, you know, that you later get in, say, Pioneers. But, you know, what can I say? I thoroughly enjoyed listening to this amp. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. And you'll play this amp, and there'll be songs, and you'll be hearing things in those songs you never heard before. Partly it's because it's kind of biased in the bass and upper bass and mid range. But I don't know. You know, it's you know, it's in a certain way it's class, but it's old and it's kind of temperamental, you know. Yeah, and let me say, if you were to say to me, do I want this one or this one, which is actually a question I'm not sure I know the answer to. This is still a good amp. This is a good, you know, this is a highly regarded amp. It's got a nice mid-range too. I think if push came to shove and I had to choose, I'd probably choose this only because I can play it louder and it would stay together. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have any kind of drawbacks. This has certain drawbacks, but this will give you certain things, mid-range presence, the in the room thing. This gives it in more abundance than I've probably ever heard. Yeah. So maybe that's it. Okay, so there you have it. Please leave any comments. We can talk about what is good equipment, and you know, like and subscribe if you want. Okay, bye for now.